Tyler Herro received too much hate from NBA media heads and Heat fans as a whole? Well, on today's show, we're going to be discussing the possibility of that being actually the case because Patrick Beverley mentioned that he thinks Herro is actually a little underappreciated by Heat fans. And before we get into what he had to say, I think it's perfect timing that it is today the 4-year anniversary of this moment. Now, we can't show the highlights, but if you remember, in the bubble, Tyler Herro in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals put up 37 as a rookie against the Boston Celtics to put the Heat up 3-1, and then they ultimately went to the NBA Finals. So I want to show Tyler Herro some love because that was one of the more iconic moments of the past 10 years of the Miami Heat is when he went off in the bubble as a rookie. So like today's video to show love to Tyler, the baby goat. I know the nickname was already there in the regular season, but I feel like the baby goat was really honed in when he dropped 37 on the Boston Celtics. All right, as we get into this now, it's very intriguing. With a week to go until the training camp begins, until we have the other moments in Heat Media Day, it's fascinating to see Tyler Herro's name get brought up by the Patrick Beverley podcast with Pat Bev and Roan from, I think Barstool Sports has it. But either way, it was fascinating to see Pat Bev kind of go to bat for Tyler Herro. Specifically when talking about Herro in Miami, he said that anytime it's a big game, Tyler Herro plays well. Anytime they say Tyler Herro is going through a shooting slump, he comes out on TV and he plays well. Tyler Herro isn't the problem. And he also went on to say that the real issue with the Miami Heat over the past couple of years or so is that they have not had a real natural point guard to help set up everyone else. They kind of deferred in their conversation and said Jimmy, Bam, Tyler, they need a true point guard. And if I'm going to be honest, like I do agree with Pat Bev to a degree. Like, I'm not going to be fully in on that Tyler Herro doesn't deserve any discredit for his ability over the past couple of years. But if you think about it, since Jimmy Butler and Bam have been together on the Miami Heat, the best season that they had in the regular season, 1 seed, right? Remember what happened that year? They went out and got Kyle Lowry. And I know a lot of us despise Kyle Lowry and kind of hated on him for how he ended up playing on the Miami Heat. But he played well in 21-22. And the Heat were the number 1 seed, and that was when Herro was the sixth man. When Lowry started to decline in 22-23, in the beginning of 23-24, well, that's really when we decided to not like Kyle Lowry. We had no issues with Kyle in his first year, but the last year and a half, it was a little bit of an issue to have him. So when the Heat had a natural point guard, well, the Heat were very good. And although Tyler does deserve to get some of the blame for his inability to stay on the basketball court, Pat Bev is right. Like, he might be maybe the most consistent player for the Miami Heat when he's playing basketball. You can't label him as a consistent guy because he isn't on the court enough and he hasn't been able to play 70-plus games. But when he is healthy and playing basketball, he is always the same dude on the court. He is always averaging 20 points per game. He is always shooting mid 40% from the field and close to 40% from three. Like, he is someone who, when he is playing basketball, you can expect the same type of performances from him on a nightly basis. That is consistency, if you ask me. And now we just need to see him play 70-plus games in a season and stay healthy for that to really materialize into something really, really special. More to come on Tyler Herro, but let me know, do you blame Tyler Herro for the Heat struggles over the past couple of seasons? I know some Heat fans do. Some people want him gone. I said at the end of last year that I don't think he should be on the roster anymore, but ultimately he is. But this is a question to you. Should he be blamed for the Heat struggles? Why for yes or N for no? I think he should not be totally blamed, if we're going to be honest. Because to me, Tyler Herro is being forced to play a role that he shouldn't have to play. When you think of how the Heat have had their roster construction over the past couple of years, who is the third option on this team? It's Tyler Herro. And you could actually argue that in the regular season, he is actually looked at as a top 2 option in comparison to Jimmy and Bam because those two don't always have the best regular season numbers when it comes offensively. Now, in the postseason, different story. But in the regular season, Herro gets more shot attempts than the two of them. But to me, Tyler is a really good 4th player on a contending team. 3rd player, not so much. And we have always known that Herro is an offensive guy. And to me, I don't think you can have someone that is just so like, I guess if you had to have a teeter-totter, whatever the heck they call, offense up here and defense down here. It needs to be a little bit more balanced, like this maybe. but it's right here for Tyler. And here's some interesting statistics I found offensively when you're looking at his advanced numbers. And his shot quality, he's in the 93rd percentile. So he's getting good shots for him and his teammates. That's what that is in the term of his number, creating good shots for you and your teammates. Offensive load, 90th percentile. So he gets a lot of volume in terms of NBA offense. Creation, 89th percentile. Another metric kind of going towards how he creates for himself, but creates for his teammates as well. And then crafted offensive plus minus in the 83rd percentile. So when you look specifically at his offensive numbers, he is clearly in the top, 20% of NBA players. And when I looked at this website, shout out to Crafted NBA, by the way, they compared him to other offensive players. They looked at his metrics, his numbers, his statistics, and kind of spit out how he is compared to other NBA players in terms of scores and a grading scale of 1 to 100. Well, the top 5 players offensively, specifically on the offensive side of the floor, that he was compared to: Kobe White at Mikal Bridges, Terry Rozier, Desmond Bane, and Darius Garland. Now, this is ranking from top to bottom, so he was most compared to Kobe White. It was 92 out of 100. Mikal was 91. Terry was 90, 89, and 88. But these are some good basketball players named that Herro is very similar to offensively. And I do find it intriguing that Terry Rozier, obviously the starting backcourt mate with Tyler Herro, is someone he's very similar to, because we've talked a lot about how they both have their struggles finishing around the rim, way under league average, but can get to their spots in their mid-range as well as shooting from beyond the arc. And I want to go back to this note right here. I think we can all agree that Tyler Herro is a very good fourth option, but he is currently being forced to be the third best player on this Heat team. Now, and this is where things get interesting, because if Tyler Herro takes a step back, Jimmy Butler's more aggressive offensively, Bam Adebayo's more aggressive offensively, you get a big-time leap from Jaime Jaquez Jr. in year 2, and he becomes your third best player, which I don't think is that crazy of a thing to say, considering how we saw him play offensively and defensively down the stretch last year. And if he improves as a three-point shooter and a playmaker, he can be there. Well, now if you're talking Jimmy 1, Bam 2, Jaime 3, Tyler 4, with some of these other role players like Jovic, Rozier, Duncan in that 5 through 7 slot, well, now you're really talking about a roster that is deep, versatile, and layered to where they can actually start to make some things happen in the postseason, and in the regular season, and not have to be a play-in team fighting for their lives in the beginning of the playoffs. More to come here in just a second, but make sure you are subscribed to the channel, because we did mention it, 1 week away from the Heat media session. We will have you covered with quotes, appearances from Jimmy Butler, and everything else. So lock us in here at the channel, because we're going to make sure you are covered on everything surrounding the Miami Heat. As we transition and continue the conversation on Tyler Herro, the offense has never been something that we've really been that concerned about. Sure, there's been questions about if he can create for himself in isolation settings, or is he a screen merchant from Bam Adebayo? Well, I think he's improved on the isolation setting, but the defense has always been a main concern. And like offense, I'm going to show you some statistics to back it up, because in deflections, which is arguably one of the most important defensive statistics that we can measure, is how many times do you get your hands on the ball, whether it be poking a ball free from a ball handler or getting your hands in the passing lanes, disrupting the offense. He's in the 13th percentile. And it always goes back to his poor wingspan. One of the worst wingspans in the entire NBA. He's 6'5" in height. His wingspan is 6'3" and a 3/4. That's not very good. Negative wingspan, horrible. In terms of the versatility, now this is a very subjective type of our measurement, I should say. 38th percentile. Not great, but we do know that he really can't guard anything more than 1s or 2s. And then in the crafted defensive plus minus, he's in the 28th percentile. Not very good. And like we did with offense, here are some of the players that he graded out similar to in terms of their defense: Derrick Rose, Harrison Barnes, Austin Reeves, Miles Bridges, and Jalen Brunson. I don't think we can look at any of these 5 guys and say, well, those are good defenders. I don't think you could say the same thing for Tyler Herro. And the fact that his number 1 more similar player was 35-year-old Derrick Rose, that's probably not great when we're really thinking about how Tyler is defensively. And that's the issue, right? If Tyler Herro is a really good defensive player and a two-way guy averaging 20 points per game, well, we'd have a lot more success on our hands over the past 4 years, because you now have a defensive trio of Herro, Jimmy, and Bam. But he's just simply not that guy. He is an offensive player, offensive-focused dude who needs to have help around him defensively to be able to mask his defensive inefficiencies. We're going to round out the conversation in just a second, but I did want to show these Heat shirts. Season, week away. Or not a week away, but preseason's about 2 or 3 weeks away. Get your Heat gear now before we get the season fully underway in a month. Chatsports.com/Heat shirt. $7 off, $21, $20 right now when you go to chatsports.com/Heat shirt. Links in the description and comments of today's video. All right, I do want to circle back to what Pat Bev said about the Heat's point guard situation because that is the real issue with Miami, and it's the reason why the Heat went out and traded for Terry Rozier 2 weeks before the trading deadline back in January because they have always needed someone to help Jimmy and Bam in terms of ball distribution, ball handling, and playmaking. As I mentioned, it is no surprise that the best season since Jimmy and Bam joined forces in 2019 came when they had a true natural point guard playing at a high level in Kyle Lowry in the 21-22 season. And it's no surprise that when you think of the people that the Heat have tried to go out and trade for and just missed out on, they have been ball-dominant guards who can play make for themselves and others. Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell. This is something that the Heat organization knows they need to improve on, and they are banking on Terry Rozier being much better in his second full season with the Miami Heat because the Heat were playing better basketball when Rozier was playing really well down the stretch before he suffered that neck injury. So they're really hoping that Terry is going to be able to be a difference maker for this Heat basketball team this season, and I think Pat Bev is on to something. Point guard play, pairing up with Jimmy, Bam, and Tyler is where we have to keep our attention because that is when the Heat are absolutely at their best. All right, before we get out of here, I do want to show this that was announced this morning by the Miami Heat organization. They are installing a new scoreboard. How about this? Look at this. This thing is massive. What are we in Jerry's World down in Dallas Cowboys land? New enhanced scoreboard, lighting system, audio, retractable seating system. Mickey Arison and the Heat organization are putting forth an effort to improve the Kaseya Center and whatever it's going to be named going out in the future. And if you are someone who lives in the area, I recommend you go into a game because it's probably going to be a lot more fun to look up and see this scoreboard, and the fireball is what they're calling it, and watching the games in the arena. It's going to be a lot of fun this upcoming season. I wish I was able to go to some games, but unfortunately, Chat Sports is located in Dallas, Texas, and it's really not able to get down to Miami to watch some of these games. But shout out to Mickey Arison and the organization for making things happen and improving the, entertainment for the Heat fans. All right, season is a month away. What is today? September 23rd? Well, October 23rd is when the Heat host the Orlando Magic. Scale 1 to 10. How excited are you for the season? If you're a Dolphins fan, might be 10 because the Heat team at least is likely going to be in the playoffs this upcoming season. All right, hit that sub button as well because when the season returns, we'll have watch parties, we'll have more news, more rumors, we'll talk everything surrounding this Heat team. So hit that sub button, join us because we're going to have the best coverage here at the channel.